Hello and welcome to The Debrief. I'm Seth Ressler.
I'm Becky Scarcello.
And this is the show where we meet the creatives who are shaping Detroit.
That was very authoritative.
I've been practicing, damn it.
Good job.
Here's what we're talking about on today's show. We're talking about kids because obviously this pandemic has had a huge effect, not only on kids themselves and the parents of kids. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know you're a parent. Your kids are older.
Yeah, 18 and 20. But I do have a high school senior. So, I mean, it's a big year and school's been all over the place. And yeah.
So the kids in my life are younger, right? Elementary age. And it's affected them in different ways too.
Right. I don't envy you.
No, it's I mean, just watching the whole thing, it's
rough.
And then also my sister and my brother-in-law are teachers,
right?
And watching the people who work with kids on a daily basis and how they've had to adapt their routines
completely
has been really interesting to watch them and the challenges that they've gone through. Mm-hmm. That's actually what we're going to talk about today. Today we're going to talk about how nonprofits who work with children are pivoting.
Yeah, the needs have changed for their clients.
Absolutely. Yeah. Things that they need to do. The nonprofit in question that we're talking about today is Arts and Scraps. This is a fantastic
I love them.
Yeah. Detroit-based nonprofit. What this organization does is they take old recycled materials that get donated to them. So, for example, individuals might donate, I don't know, their old cassette tapes or floppy disks or whatever you've got lying around your house that doesn't get used anymore. Mm-hmm. If you're a company, you might donate industrial packaging materials, for example. And they take all this stuff and they develop these programs where kids can use them in, creating creative stuff. I guess.
And actually education-based, like really learning. Yeah.
Yep. And they work with schools on these programs, or families can actually come in under normal circumstances to the store for arts and scraps and do these programs. But it's all changed now, and we're going to find out how. We have joining us AG Adamak. She is the Executive Director of Arts and Scraps. Ange, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much for having us. We're excited to chat with you guys.
Absolutely. So, Ange, you're running your business. The pandemic hits, first we think it's going to be a couple weeks. As you and your staff are like, this is longer, this is severe, we've got to think about things differently. How did your goals change as to who you're serving and how?
Yeah, well, immediately it became evident that we could not be doing our programs. Immediately, all of our programs were shut down. I think it was like March 13th or something.
Right.
And
Friday
so
the 13th.
yes, exactly. And so immediately we said, okay, how do we still help students be creative, keep learning, keep active? And initially we thought, okay, what do we do to keep them active for 3 weeks? Because in the world of a child, 3 weeks is a really long time.
Yes.
And so that was our initial goal, was how do we keep families active and learning for 3 weeks? And so we partnered with 2 wonderful organizations and put together a program where we could give out creative supply kits that would keep a family with 3 children busy for 3 weeks. And then, that became a year.
Right. Now, how'd you identify those partners? Or, this is now going from just working on your own, or did you already have these partnerships? How did that work?
So we ended up working with Mint Artists Guild, who we've worked with for a really long time. They're like friends of Arts and Scraps, and they work with creative teens all year long. And then we ended up partnering with Brilliant Detroit, and they work in neighborhoods with families, usually doing literacy and education and resourcing families. And Vicki Elmer, the executive director of Mint, came to us and said, we've got families that need stuff and we're getting this request. And actually we were getting the same request from families in our neighborhood. And so Vicki said, you know what, let's bring in Brilliant, because their houses are located all over the city of Detroit. They can help us distribute throughout the neighborhoods. And so we called up Cindy and she said yes. And by March 25th, we had distributed the first 100 kits. And just kept going from there. It was such a seamless partnership with these 2 wonderful other organizations.
Wow. Yeah, you make it sound easy, but I'm sure it wasn't.
They made it easy. They're wonderful partners.
That's great.
We just kind of said yes and figured it out. So we put the kits together. We worked on a collaborative resource that could go in the kits that included things like, at the time there was free internet for everyone, so we put resources in there about those. There was like PBS, Detroit Public Television, and some other groups were coming up really quickly with online educational resources, so we put a lot of those in there. And then we put in some ideas of how they could use the materials in the bags to keep creative and active at home during what we thought would be 3 weeks.
Okay.
And we kind of adjusted that paperwork throughout the time, and a little bit we adjusted what was in the bag, but for the most part, it stayed the same. And we've now given out over 6,500 of these things. And
Wow.
we're still getting requests every day for more of them. So
So
the need is out there.
right. So the idea is you identified the need based on requests, really, and what you were hearing from your clients. And you take these steps to fulfill it. But the gist is that this helps people that are learning at home have another way to do so versus just like the classroom Zooms and things.
Yeah, even something like between Zooms, like having a way for them to like have a reward of something fun to do.
Yeah.
Different ways to keep their brains engaged that isn't connected to a screen. We found was going to be really important. That first week we because the store was closing, we put, I think it was 25 bags out in front of the store and just put a social media post out there, and they were gone within an hour. And we had like 350 shares of like people saying, go get these bags.
Stuff,
It was like,
Wow.
oh my gosh. I mean, people need creative things to do with their students at home that
Right.
keep them active and learning. And, I think over the year, it's also morphed into like stress relief and, art therapy and lots of different things. And that's where that kind of resource has come in, is like, what other things can we point folks to that will help them while they're going through all of this. So
Right.
It's true, especially watching the younger ones. I mean, I think with teenagers, it's easier for them to sit on a screen all day and interact with their friends that way. But watching these young kids
Try to navigate
Zoom and just be occupied for 6 hours a day with that, you need that tactical stuff.
yeah, there's also different kinds of learners. There's 5 different types of learners, and some kids just learn with their hands. And so if everything is now not even in the classroom listening, it's also not even that tactile thing of being in the
Right. Can't
classroom
touch
with folks.
anything. Yeah.
It's so much harder. And there's a lot of kids out there that need that interaction, that need that hands-on way to learn. Giving them that experience, even if it's in between lessons, helps them to be able to retain information better.
So as this drags on, for all of us, how do you deal with the uncertainty? Like, when is school going to open again? And when are kids going to go in a hybrid model and all this kind of stuff? What kind of roadblocks are you hitting, just not knowing what's coming down the road?
Sure. So I would say, at the risk of being repetitive, our goal has always been to listen to the community and what their needs are. And so, what we heard was, we need some classes connected to these bags. We've got these wonderful materials, right? Like, but they're different than anything else. They're not crayons and paper. They're not coloring books. Although we did have some coloring pages in there. So what do we do with these weird materials that are from industrial, scraps and things like that? So we actually partnered with 5 organizations this time and put together summer camp experience for about 2 months, where each nonprofit took a day, and we did 5 days a week classes for 2 months connected to these bags, so that over the summer and as school started, people had something to look forward to each day that they could use these bags for. And it just kind of got the word out even more about the bags, helping people not only have something to do with them, but also like letting their friends and family know, like, these are available and a resource to you guys. So that was really great. And then the next piece was, we actually had parents saying, we are trying to figure out, this spring was so crazy. What are we going to do as school started? So we actually ended up getting to do some classes that we called Frustration Free Toolkit. And those are actually all on YouTube if you want to go check them out. We had very little participation because adults are also Zoom fatigued.
Right.
But our YouTube videos have actually gotten quite a bit of views. And it's all about tips and tricks for how to help with teaching at home, and how to make that less frustrating, both for the parents and for the children.
Right.
And also connecting to those bags. So just continually listening about how we can continue to serve.
So I have to ask about the money side of things, though. I mean, it's not like most nonprofits don't just have a huge pot of money sitting there, and you had a different model. You had earned income where, you had proceeds from the store and sales. And so you weren't necessarily used to fundraising. And so what did you do to have the money to pay for these things?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, one of the first things I'll say is that initial partnership with Brilliant and Mint was kind of mind-bogglingly helpful. Brilliant basically said, "We're going to fundraise for these kits," and they actually funded the first 2,000 kits with their donors, and said, "You know what? We're just going to give the money to Arts and Scraps because this is a resource that we're going to be able to put into our houses," which was an incredible, incredible gift. It also bought us some time to build some infrastructure, just like you said, for fundraising and grant writing and things like that, to make us able to continue to fund them. So since then, we've been able to get funding from several different foundations, as well as hundreds of individuals that have seen the need and how it's fulfilling a need in the community, and have kind of helped us to make it all happen. So
yeah,
it's been a big twist for us.
I was going to say, was your staff even equipped to that? Like, what sort of assets did you have on staff already to do that, or did you have to get outside help?
Sure. Yeah, we shifted some of our marketing person's hours to fundraising and development, and then we had an administrative person that we also shifted to fundraising, and those two folks kind of built infrastructure for us that you'd think a 32-year-old organization would have, but when you're so based on earned income, you just don't have that. And in all honesty, it's been a goal of ours that we've been building over the last couple of years, but the number of donors this year went up by 167%, which is just incredible.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So as the need grew, the resources grew for you. That's amazing.
And it's amazing how, in a lot of ways, this pandemic has forced people to basically do things that they knew they needed to do anyway, but they were, always able to sort of push down the road. Now it's like, all right.
Gotta do it.
We gotta make this happen.
Yeah.
So, I'll also say we had some really great partners, yes, in Mint and Brilliant, but also some wonderful artists that just said, "You know what? I want to give my time to Arts and Scraps during this pandemic. I'm going to support whatever fundraiser you have going on. I'm going to do my own fundraiser." I mean, like, the amount of support we received from our artist community was kind of incredible. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, yeah, I think that speaks to that you built that community to begin with. Yeah. So besides that, building good relationships, what advice would you have for other organizations really trying to make such a major shift like this?
Sure. I would say take the leap. I would say if you have partners that you really think you can trust, take the leap. And if there's a need in the community, it will be filled. And if you can help in that, jump in and see how you can help. When the impact will always show when the need is there, and the dollars will come if that need is being fulfilled. So, we're a very small organization. So for us to build all this infrastructure, to fundraise, to market, all these different pieces, finding the right partners and really just saying yes and going all the way in, is the only way we've made it through this year, y'all.
That's awesome.
We're glad that you have. Ange, we've got one last thing we want to ask you before you go. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, Ang Adamak of Arts and Scraps here in Detroit. Name a creative in Detroit that everybody should know.
So I am going to suggest that everybody go check out the Foodie Detroit. And they are basically a blog about different places all around Detroit to go eat. And my favorite thing about them is that they center on kind of old Detroit, quote unquote, places to go. So they are a native Detroiter, grew up in the area. And yes, they go to all the openings, but they also love to go to all the old places as well. So it's a great resource for good food.
All right, Ang Adamiak, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to support Arts and Scraps, they can do so over at the website, which is just artsandscraps.org. Hey, it's great to see what you've been doing and the way you've pivoted. I mean, it's really admirable. So congratulations for making it.
For sure.
Turning 3 weeks into a year, I guess.
Well, we appreciate your guys' support all throughout the year, as well as having us on today. So thanks so much.
Sure.
All right, that's the show. That's it for me. I am Seth Ressler.
Becky Scarcello.
We want to let you know that there's plenty of ways for you to find this show. We're on YouTube. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We've even got our own mobile app. Until next time, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.